Mike O'Mara, Radio Entertainment. Hicks, Nicks, Sticks, Picks. A podcast about Rob's movies with your hosts, Rob Spewak and Josh Sroka. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let the show begin.
I really hope a lot of people watch this movie in preparation for this week, because when we say this is a podcast about Rob's movies, this is one of the Rob-est Rob movies there is.
That is a great description.
Welcome to Hicks, Nicks, Stick Picks. I'm a Rob Spewak, and that's Josh Sroka. Yeah. I didn't know if he was going to jump in or not. You were thrown because I said stick instead of sticks. That was more of a a throat issue.
Yes. Yeah, you are Rob Spewak of Rob's movies.
Of Rob's movies. These are my movies, and we come to you as a service of the Mike O'Mara Show. Now, I'm excited and apprehensive. I got like a roller coaster feeling, Josh, because I love this movie. Can't wait to talk about it. But I know that you not only have never seen this movie, you're not a guy who's seen a lot of Westerns, and a lot of the jokes they hinge on the fact that you know Westerns, and also it's just another old movie. And so before we start, what was the experience like dipping your toe into the Western milieu?
I've never seen young James Garner.
Okay. So this even precedes Rockford even. So
yeah, like I've seen him as like an old man.
Mm-hmm.
But
like the American president, and also when he was the old astronaut.
Right. Yeah. So, no, you want my initial?
Okay, go ahead.
Here's a great way to start. The initial movie starts, and you'll get to your rundown. But it starts with a funeral.
Yeah, it does start with a funeral.
And suddenly they think there's gold in the burial hole.
There is gold. Yes.
The widow is in there swinging around a shovel. Saying, "Get out of my gold mine." And I just wrote down in my notes, "What am I watching?" Okay.
All right. That's good. Let us begin.
I thought it was a Western.
Well, here's the deal. And we'll get to this in the second part. On the surface, the plot could be any Western, but what they do with the plot is not standard. We'll talk about it, but you're right.
Yeah. It's
we open with
in a Western.
We open with that desperado guitar. And it's a funeral procession to bury Prudy Perkins' dead husband. All is very solemn until she notices gold in the grave. And Prudence Perkins, played by Joan Hackett, we call her Prudy, stakes her claim, and the gold rush is on in the town of Callender, Colorado. And what we see is a town that we have to assume, was quiet and pleasant and basically uninhabited, taken over by crazy gold rush mania. And the town is in a bad situation. You see the town. It is muddy. It is overrun with people. I think one of the more clever jokes for a 1968 movie. And I did say this is support your local sheriff, didn't I? Maybe I got too excited.
But it is support your local sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, it's right up there, folks.
Yeah,
look,
and it's on the podcast title before you hit play.
I think for 1968, it's a pretty clever notion to have a house of ill repute called Madame Orr's House.
Yes, I noticed that. And we were introduced to this city by a giant fight in the mud.
Yeah, it's horrible. This is a horrible city.
and that's where the music stood out to me. It was while they're fighting in the mud, and it is the corniest music possible.
I happen to have, and we're listening to right now, the entire score. It's called a soundtrack suite. So hopefully I can sort of time my description with the music, but no promises. So the town is in a bad situation, and we see the fact they need law and order. The town council is panicking because they've got all this gold that needs to go. They're mining lots of gold in Callender, and it needs to get to Galena. But to get from Callender to Galena, they have to go through the Danby's farm, or the Danby's ranch. Now, the Danby is an evil family. Their leader, their dad, is Walter Brennan, who is so great in this movie, at least in my opinion. But the Danbys are taking 20% of all the gold in a most evil way. So, as if on cue, Jason McCullough, played by young James Garner, no stranger to the Western because he had already had a TV show called Maverick, Maybe you remember the Mel Gibson remake of it? He was old James Garner.
The truck I drive.
Okay, that's good.
A Maverick.
Also, it was the Mercury knockoff of the Pinto, the beautiful Mercury Maverick. But
and a name these millennials love to name their kids.
Yeah, Maverick. And stay away from that. Jason McCullough, who is young James Garner, rides into the mining town of Callender, and he sees this horrible atmosphere. The town is clearly under criminal control, with armed men roaming openly and citizens keeping their head down. I think it's a little obvious that it's the Old West. Everyone's going to have guns anyway. But because it's a Western, Jason stops by the saloon, because that's what you do, and almost immediately there's a shooting. And it's Joe Danby, the meanest of the Danby boys. He murders a man, saying it was self-defense. And Jason McCullough calls him on the fact that he said it is self-defense.
And it was a fair fight. He drew first, so it was self-defense.
I told you, he drew first. Sure as anything.
Oh, you couldn't call that anything else but self-defense.
Well, it may have been a lot of things, but self-defense it wasn't. And he didn't draw first. You did.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, that's an old trick. You did it pretty well. Not real well, but pretty well. You feinted with your left shoulder, getting him to go for his gun while you were going for yours with your right hand at the same time. It's an old Arizona trick, but I have seen it used as far north as Montana.
Are you calling me a liar?
Well, now, you heard every word I said, and I didn't call you a liar. All I said was you feinted him into drawing with your left shoulder while you were going for your gun with the right hand.
So what?
You beat that poor man to the draw. He's dead and you're alive. That's the whole idea of the game, isn't it?
What's your name?
Jason McCullough. What's yours?
Joe Danby. And you had better remember it.
Oh, I'll remember it, Joe. That's about all I'm going to do the rest of my life is go around remembering your name.
Now, that is Bruce Dern as Joe Danby, who was most recently in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He played the old man. I think he's the only living cast member from this movie because he played a kid in it.
Well, that scene is a great start because I'll tell you what this movie did for me.
Okay.
Is James Garner kept a smile on my face the entire movie.
He is so cool. He's cool to a fault. I mean, he's cool on the Rockford Files, but this movie, I've watched it, I would say conservatively. I always say 100, but I'll say 150 times I've watched this movie. And he is that character. If I ever met James Garner, I'd want him to be Jason McCullough. That's what I want.
He speaks so calmly the entire time as he's calling everyone else on the screen an idiot.
And he somehow stays above the fray. It's almost like he has brought 1960s a mindset back to the 1860s because he's not like anyone else.
Yeah, no, he is above everyone else. He's better than everyone else. But he also keeps talking about going to Australia.
Yes.
So there's that quirkiness of him.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're smarter than everyone, but you're trying to walk to Australia.
Yeah. And the weird thing is that even though he's got that Australia on his way type quirk, he really comes off. This is maybe, with the exception of mentioning the Australian thing, that opening monologue tells you more about him than any. It's a great first scene for a character.
He instantly just tells the criminals, hey, this is why you failed.
Exactly. And I have seen it used as far north as Arizona. So cut to Emma's tasty home-cooked meals, which is, again, the town is a disaster. And, I got my music. And because of this, $3 meals that look like a pile of garbage are now becoming $8 meals that look like a pile of garbage. And Jason says, if I don't get a job, I realize I'm going to go broke at about 2:30 this afternoon. And so he needs a job. And of course, another fight breaks out. Now it's at the restaurant. I think it's connected to the fight in the mud. I don't know, but there's a lot of fighting so far. And so he excuses himself from all this. He grabs a flyer that says Sheriff Wanted. Here's your plot. And he encounters Prudy Perkins, who is in a knockdown, dragged-out fight in the middle of the muddiest street you've ever seen. So he sees her and encounters her, but doesn't know who she is yet. I do love when she says, she says to him, were you looking to grab something? He says, it all looks too slippery. She says, what is that supposed to mean? I don't like the looks of you, and goes after him. It's a great first impression to make, certainly. So Jason, avoiding the muddy fight, goes over to meet Mayor Ollie Perkins, played by Harry Morgan. Now, you had to recognize him from MASH.
I've never seen MASH. Sorry.
Okay. He was in the old Dragnet. Did you see the new Dragnet with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks?
I did.
Okay. He was like the head of the police force in that. He still played Bill Gannon, but
and
you don't recognize Harry
80s
Morgan?
Movie new.
Well, it's newer than the old Dragnet. Okay.
Yes.
You're right. You're right.
I told you, I know Harry Morgan is the name of Dexter Morgan's father in Dexter.
Okay.
So that's when you say Harry Morgan, that's where my mind goes.
One of these days, you must watch an episode of MASH. It was something of a big deal.
Maybe.
So he goes in and he says he'd like to be the sheriff. And everyone in the town council is excited because no one wants this job. But Harry Morgan says, oh, well, I don't know that you're definitely qualified, because he doesn't want to have him shot right away. They've had 3 sheriffs in 2 months. But Jason has a clever display of marksmanship here, using a metal washer from the hardware store. Flips it up in the air.
There you are.
What's your point, Mr. McCullough?
Well, no point. Just an exhibition of marksmanship. The bullet went through the hole in the center.
Yeah, well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
Oh, it did. You can take my word for it.
Yeah, well, I'd like to take your word, but...
So he puts a piece of tape over the center of the washer.
Would you mind doing it again, Mr. McCullough?
You want me to do it again?
If you don't mind.
Well, I already shot one hole in your roof.
That's all right. I hope you didn't take no offense at nothing I may have said earlier.
So he actually throws a washer in the air and shoots a hole through it.
Yes.
Pretty good.
I realize, now watching these replays, I realize what it triggers to me is the way he speaks calmly to like the mayor and everything. It's the same tone and pace as Mike Brady talking to his sons and teaching them a lesson.
It is very much that way, and that's a way that
the same way.
It puts him above the fray again. Just like he's the grown up. Yeah,
he's the grown up in this town.
Harry Morgan, just as I was searching my mind during that clip, he played in the Glenn Miller Story, which you've never seen. He was Elvis's sidekick in Frankie and Johnny, which you've never seen. And he was in the Hal Linden television program on NBC, Black's Magic, which you've never seen.
Correct.
So these are, okay, well, at least I'm getting to know you. Jason gets the job, which is great. And it's a temporary job, he says, because basically I'm just passing through on my way to Australia. And that's a running gag in the movie that's never really explored. He just says it. The sheriff job includes room, board, and a dented badge. And the sheriff's office is brand new, except for there's one problem. So great. There are no bars on the cell.
Hey, I was just checking. I did see a Harry Morgan movie.
What movie?
The Apple Dumpling Gang.
Yes. Okay. Very good. He played a character very much like
other movie.
He's like Mayor Perkins in that movie as well. It's he has a type.
Yeah. But yeah, no. The jail is the best in the country.
It's gorgeous,
except for they're still waiting on the
no iron bars, no iron, and they've got everything roughed in. And he looks at it and he says, "You're kidding." And he says, well, we'll think of something now that he's sheriff. He has to. And he immediately goes out. He breaks up the street fight with a fire hose. I don't know how historically accurate that old-fashioned fire hose pump was, but it was very effective at the time. And while he does it...
Yeah, as long as you have 8 men to help you put out the fire.
Yeah, it was a volunteer fire department. And in the mud, he spots Jake, who is played by Jack Elam. I'm hoping you know him from Cannonball Run as Dr. Nicholas Van Helsing.
I never seen Jake before in my life.
Okay. He is Jack Elam. He was a wonderful character actor, played in a lot of Westerns, perhaps most notable for the fact that his eyes don't point the same way at the same time.
It works great for the character.
Oh, he's the best. Everything he says in this movie is almost quotable. And he tells Jake in the street, he says, "Go tell Joe Danby he's about to be arrested." And I love, he says, "Well, what'll I do when he shoots me?" He says, "Well, I'll arrest him for both murders." So meanwhile, back at the sheriff's office, Jason goes up to the jail and draws a chalk line where the bars should be and drizzles some red paint right there. And he says, "That ought to about do it." And the mayor says,
Right.
"Well, that'll do about what, Sheriff?"
Doesn't explain.
Doesn't. And then he's off. So now his next step is to drop off his stuff. Jason goes to the home where he'll live, and ostensibly he's going to meet Prudy Perkins.
I want you to meet my daughter, Sheriff. She's a good cook, mighty fine-looking girl. Takes after her dear departed mother.
Mother died, huh?
No, she just departed.
So, one of my favorite lines. The mayor also warns Jason about how bad the Danbys are. They're bad sort. And he says, "Well, we got to take care of it or I can't be sheriff." So he goes off. He's going to go to the jail. He's going to go to the saloon and arrest Joe. Meanwhile, Prudy is still caked with mud from the fight. She's wearing men's long johns and is soaking wet trying to get herself cleaned up. And to avoid meeting Jason again, she hides in a tree. So the first time that he sees her and realizes who she is, she's covered in mud, she's in men's underwear, she's soaking wet, and she's up in a tree. And he asks her something to the effect of, "Are you like this every day, or did I just get lucky?" And again, she makes a great first impression and a great second impression, and great cameo there by a character actress, Kathleen Freeman as Miss Danvers, who says that Prudy got her hair caught in the ice cream freezer at one point. So Jason heads to arrest Joe Danby, and even though even though he did not talk to Joe, Jason offers Jake the job of deputy. He told Jake to go warn him. Jake didn't do that. And he turns it down. He said, "How would you like to be my deputy?" He said, "I hate it." And I guess so. But either way, Jason proceeds with the arrest, but gets double-crossed with a gunman up in the balcony there. But Jake saves his life. So, like it or not, Jake is now the deputy.
Do you think Jake could see that guy up there because of his eyes?
He could see the man up there,
both directions,
and on the sheriff. Absolutely. So they lock Joe up using the chalk line, and he tells him that the red paint is blood from the last person who tried to escape from the jail with no bars, and that keeps an irate Joe Danby under control. He and Jake talk about being sheriff and deputies and the Danbys and how he's on his way to Australia. And since Jason is such an amazing gunfighter, he gives Jake some shooting lessons. And it's a great scene where they're practicing shooting. And in the background, you see Joe Danby looking out the back of the jail watching them, but there's no bars. And without even making reference to it, Joe disappears. And Sheriff McCullough says, "Now you keep practicing. I'm going to go put Joe back in jail." He knows that he's left and he's escaping. So great when he takes his gun and points it at the sheriff, and he says, "Now, Joe, I took the bullets out of your gun." And he says, "Okay." So he goes back to jail and
doesn't
then
even
takes
try
the
to
bullets.
pull the trigger.
No, it's so great. That evening, Prudy, who is now officially smitten with the sheriff, makes dinner, and while she's making biscuits, she gets her face covered with flour, and then her dress catches fire. So this is another great chance to make a first impression that Prudy absolutely ruins. And Mayor Perkins says, "Well, wealth kind of unhinged her. Puberty hit her hard." And that's when we realized she did realize all the money from that mine. So she's the richest gal in town. So Jason, it's the first night of the jail. He goes to check on Jake, and the Danbys roll into town. And this is when we first see Walter Brennan. Walter Brennan is an Academy Award-winning actor who goes back to the 1930s, made movies with the likes of Humphrey Bogart, and he had a television series called The Real McCoys. Very respected actor in Hollywood, but his best work when he was in the 30s and 40s playing in Westerns. So he's basically doing a parody of himself here, mostly I think from the movie Red River. And he goes into the office to challenge the sheriff and get his son out of jail.
"I believe you got one of my children in your jail here."
How dare you walk into my office and pull a gun on me?
Get your finger out of the end of my gun.
How dare you pull a gun on me?
I said take your finger out of the end of my gun.
Well, until I do, you better take your finger off that trigger and let the hammer down real slow.
That gun had gone off, it had blown right up in my face.
Now, it wouldn't have done my finger a hell of a lot of good either, would it?
Now, it is... I can't really put into words how in 1968 to see Walter Brennan in a comedy take on his own persona is cool, because he plays the exact character without being a fool in a dozen movies beforehand. But I will say this, he's got these 3 stupid sons, and no one can play rage like Walter Brennan when he gets mad at his stupid sons. It's a great, great performance. So all that works out. He meets with his other idiot sons. They decide to hire a hired gun to shoot Jason McCullough. And that evening, Miss Prudy is waiting for Jason on the porch swing and ruins everything again, even though she's trying to be a sweetheart to him. She gets defensive and doesn't want marriage and calls Jason conceited and doesn't want to go to Australia. So she screams and leaves. So again, 3rd strike for her. And so although you want the romance to happen, it's not happening yet. Jake and Jason take some time to prospect. I like the fact that they fish with dynamite. I've known people that actually do that. It is quite effective, but the prospecting fails. And besides, they have to argue about how they're going to split the gold anyway, 60 for who and 40 for who. And he begins to realize that Jake is really not the person he needs to find gold. And the gold prospecting that he was going to do on his way to Australia is going to fail. So he's back in the office now. Jason controls a public nuisance. People just riding roughshod through the streets on their horses. He pulls a cord up like a trip line to make all the horses fall down. Clever way to handle it. He takes on 3 different hired guns. The best one that he defeats by throwing rocks at him, because that's just the cool way to handle an assassin. And all this is going on while Joe Danby is helping them put the bars in the cell. They finally got them in, and he's bored, so he helps them set them in the cement. So the Danbys are pissed now because they've met in the saloon, and they said they're going to bust Joe out themselves with ropes and saddles and tying the rope to the jail bars. And you see it coming a mile away. They ride off, and the saddles get pulled off the horse, and it's just another failure. So as a final resort, the Danbys decide to round up a gang, and the word gets out that they're going to come attack the sheriff. And Jason and Prudy are on a romantic date, and Jason says, I think I'm going to leave town. And she says, that's very mature. And that gets under his craw, and he starts thinking, don't you think it sounds a little cowardly? And she says, no, I think it sounds mature. And he says, well, I think it's cowardly. And so she reverse psychology by accident him into fighting the entire Danby clan, which is 13 guys. The town council has an official vote to not help, which is great. Prudy comes in, screams death to all tyrants. And now for the fight,
I love how there's no hesitation to shoot your gun off inside.
I love it. I love it. As it would be, in a normal Western, it would happen, but here they play it for funny. I love it. So now it is the 13 Danbys against Jason, Prudy, and Jake. They have an amazing gunfight, and Jason fights it his way. Halfway through, he tries to get everything to stop.
Just hold it. Okay, go ahead.
He just had to cross the street. Yes. That's all he had to do. I love it. They don't win the gunfight with guns. What they do is they sneak to the jail and they get Joe Danby out and they strap him each arm on the wheel in front of a cannon. And the cannon you've seen earlier in the movie, it's like the set piece of the town. And he says, if you guys don't surrender, I'm going to light this fuse and blow Joe to kingdom come. And that's about all they can take. So all 13 Danbys drop their gun belts. And Jason then, once they're all rounded up, announces, he says, I wasn't really going to shoot him. That was a fake fuse in the cannon. He says, okay. And he lights it and it burns out and nothing happens. And so they're walking away. And it's not a fake because it does go off and a cannonball, by the way, great sound effect of the cannonball, destroys Madame Orr's house, which is where you wondered where the town council was during this gunfight. The entire town council was being entertained by Madame Orr, which I think is pretty great. So the town is in order. Jason decides to marry Prudy, and she's very rich, which he says, that's very nice. And Jake closes the movie with a great closing monologue.
Now, the way this story ends is that they get married. He goes on to become governor of the state. Never gets to Australia, but he keeps reading a lot of books about it. I get to be sheriff of this town. Then I go on to become one of the most beloved characters in Western folklore.
And I love in that the breaking of the third wall or fifth wall or how many walls there are, fourth wall, when he's trying to pose like a heroic Western guy.
Yes.
And he can't quite do it. But that's the movie. And Josh, I just want to ask you right now, it's sort of a good gateway drug to Westerns because it's lighthearted, it's funny, it's short. How bad did you hate it?
So here's the thing. I don't like Westerns.
Right.
I enjoyed this movie a lot.
Did you really?
It was just fun.
I'm so happy.
There wasn't a big set. It's one town. It's like maybe 2 days, if not all on the same day.
Yeah, it moves really quick.
It moves quick. There's a couple sets. I fell in love with James Garner's performance, but then Jake was always there to steal the spotlight.
Yeah,
and do
the two of them together is amazing. They do really, really well together.
I like Pa explaining to his kids, how he's scared of the new sheriff, but he won't say that he's scared of the new sheriff.
And how frightened the sons are of their father.
Yes.
I hoped this would be the outcome because this is a favorite of mine, obviously.
I like the Australia joke. I like how Australia comes up so many times because these people are so dumb. They don't really know where Australia is. So it's just like, he's heading to Australia.
When Jake said, there's my two favorite Australia jokes. The first one is why are you going to Australia? He says, it's the last of the frontier country. I'm going to do some pioneering. He says, I thought this was frontier country and we were pioneers. And then he says, there's a book about Australia. And Jake says, I ain't never even seen a book about Australia. They really have no idea about it. In the library in Chicago. This pleases me no end that you enjoyed the film. So let's take a break and go ahead.
Well, last thing, the stupidness of when they give him the sheriff badge. And he goes, it looks like it saved someone's life. It's like,
the den,
Yeah, if there weren't 100 other bullets.
Flying everywhere, I know. It's we'll discuss some more curious things about the movie and also if we had any problems with it when we come back. This is Hicks, Nicks, Sticks, Picks. Love the Desperado guitar from When Everybody's Evil. You mentioned that the music was, it's Hicks, Nicks, Sticks, Picks, supports local sheriff, but you know that. You mentioned
cheesy.
The music was not your favorite.
No. The music grew on me real fast.
Good.
The music was part of the what am I watching here? And then it all fits.
Well, the opening overture, especially, I have it here, this. I mean, it's definitely wacky. It's got a Jew's harp in it. And it's not, you're not about to watch High Noon or The Searchers. This is that definitely sets the table. Now, when it started with the scene in the grave with the gold, did you just think it was a totally misplaced gag or did it suck you in? Because it becomes actually really important to the storyline.
Well, yeah, because she's now rich.
Exactly. And the gold rush is what ruined the town.
It sucked me in because I thought, you probably told me it was a comedy, And I forgot.
Yeah.
And I put it off because I'm like, oh, support your local sheriff, a Western I've never heard of.
Yeah,
This
we were
will be
supposed
fun.
to record this 2 days ago, folks,
Yeah.
but Josh was a foot dragger. That was the
So I
problem.
watched it last night. It was on Amazon Prime, which was nice.
I think it's on YouTube for free.
So I
as
put
well.
it on and I grabbed my phone to take some notes on, and I'm just sitting there relaxing, and that happens, and I'm like, what? What am I watching? And then it instantly goes to the mud fight with this cheesy music going on.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, this isn't what I expected.
Yeah.
This is let's just relax and have some fun.
It's funny that when you mentioned Apple Dumpling Gang, there are some Disney-ish elements to the plot, like the sight gags and all that.
Yes.
But what I was saying earlier, if I were to come to you and say, here's a Western about a town that has a gold rush and it's in a disaster, and a stranger comes into town and arrests somebody that upsets the family that has the town in a reign of terror, and it results in a horrible gunfight, and that's the end of it. That could be any one of 1,000 Westerns from the 1930s or 40s. It's what they do with the plot. And I think one of the reasons the plot is so effective, even the granddaddy of all Western comedies, Blazing Saddles, Blazing Saddles doesn't look like a Western. It's too sparkly. It's too clean.
Yes.
This movie has a grittiness, and it looks like a medium budget Western. If I were to just show you a still from it, and the Western town is accurate.
No, it looks like a Western. It feels like a Western.
And I think that's why the jokes land so well, because you're not expecting them.
The jokes aren't like setup gags.
No.
They're like just slow played, but then at the same time, stuff like the guy, let me go put him back in jail. That's a Bugs Bunny scene. Like, that's a cartoon scene, but it works.
It does. It 100% works. Upon watching it again for the 151st time, and I would also, I need to tell you, this was my grandfather, Big Daddy's. This was by far his favorite movie. So every time it was on TV, it was on in our house. And Channel 20, which was when I was growing up, now it's like a subset of Channel 5. I don't know how it works. But when Channel 20 was its own deal, this was in a heavy rotation because they didn't have a lot of movies to run. So there was a chance to watch it a lot.
It's also one of those, I can see this being perfect for TV because you can pop in at any point.
And it's still
it doesn't
funny.
matter.
Exactly. And short and nothing even approaching that you would have to censor. It's a perfect television movie. But upon watching it with a more a finer lens look at it, there's really not a wasted line in this movie. Every line either makes you laugh or advances the plot somehow. And I think that's how they keep it to roughly 90 minutes. It's a little over 90 minutes, but it's a good story told tight and funny. I love that you have the idea. One of my favorite running gags is every time Paul Danby refers to the sheriff when he's mad, and he says something like, "Now he's done it." And he's just left the sheriff's office and he's mad. "Now he's done it." And one of his stupid sons says, "Who?" They do this like 4 times. They have no idea what he's talking about. They are really, really stupid. Now, Joan Hackett had not the biggest Hollywood career, but I think she's very good in this movie. I would like to have seen her do more stuff. She does use some stunt doubling, but she does some rough and tumble stuff. She allows herself to look ugly. She's lovely, but she allows herself to get splattered with mud and do the scenes like that. And she's got a strong enough characterization that when she busts heads with Jason McCullough, it feels almost real. She wants so bad. You know what? She wants to love him and he wants her to love him, but it's just not working out. What was your take on that character? That's not, certainly not for a Western, but almost an uncommon Hollywood character for any woman to play.
Yeah, it was one of those where like you have to throw the romance in there.
Yeah.
And we'll put it, and she's in there, but it's not your typical it's just a rough and tumble girl he runs into basically.
And she is funny and she's great. The scene with the fire and the flower on her face is pretty well done. That might as well be a Bugs Bunny cartoon or a silent short from the 20s.
And again, when I see like a female cast in a movie back here, I think of her as all dolled up. and they play her as like this lead attractive person.
Even when she is like clean in the beginning of the movie, she's kind of dressed up like a cowpoke. They're not dressing her in the frills or anything. So I think it's not expected, but she's very good. While we're running down the characters, we've already sort of discussed Jake. Jack Elam, I don't think ever had a leading role in his life, but everything he did was, I mean, you can't help but excel when you look like that. Eventually down the road, we will see Cannonball Run, and you'll see him again as Dr. Nicholas Van Helsing, which is great. But the movie is played broad, but I think the subtlest comedy might come from Jake. When just little things, when he says, boy, this pack, it's heavy. And the only solution that Jason offers is, let me redistribute the weight for you. And it's just, him being overly cool. And he's making Jake do all of the horrible things. When they're fishing, he says, clean those fish so I can take a nap. And he says, I won't want to disturb you. He says, well, just keep the dishes quiet. But I do think that Jake is a great character who is also, he's got a great transformation from, as he explains it, shoveling horse, working in the stables, to being the sheriff of the town. He's got a great character arc. Right.
Yeah, and a path that he didn't want. He didn't want to be the good guy.
No, and he became sheriff of the town, which is awesome. Mayor Ollie Perkins, Harry Morgan, perhaps you know him from the Apple Dumpling Gang.
Okay, yeah.
But his characterization is good too, because he's sort of a slimy politician type, because he doesn't want anything to do with anything. But he's also, make no mistake, he's stupid too. The whole town council is stupid.
Yeah, and everyone in this town is stupid.
Yeah, except maybe Prudy. Jake, I think, learns a lot. Okay,
she
so
just
she's
has
stupid.
money, so she doesn't need a man or anything.
And again, that is the way they're able to write Jason McCullough, as just staying above the fray the whole time. And again, it needs to be said, I mean, James Garner is cool. He's a cool guy no matter what. Rockford Files, one of my all-time favorite shows. This is Jim Rockford in the 1880s. This is ultra cool. And, he's human too. He gets in the gun battle, but he's double crossed. He makes his mistakes. He just is able to rise above them.
Every time there's a mistake, he has a monologue to talk about how it wasn't a mistake and those guys are dumb. And he just stops everything by talking. There's a lot of talking where a Western would normally be a lot of gunfights.
One thing I forget, it might be in the saloon when Joe starts to escape, and he just, without even looking, puts his gun behind him. He's just he's on top of everything. Now, I need to know your take, not knowing anything about Walter Brennan, your take on the character of Pa Danby, because it's such a strong part of this movie, and the movie sort of goes into overdrive when the Danbys come into town.
I like Paul. There's not enough of him.
I agree. They could have used him a lot more.
Because it is a strong character. He reminds me of like an old prospector type character. Guy that's retired. I've been there. I've been through the gunfights. Now my sons are doing it for me.
Yep. And I love also the costuming in this is great too, because what James Garner is wearing, he probably could have worn like in 1968 at a Hollywood party. He looks sharp. And then the Danbys come into town. You can almost smell the dirt on them, the beat up hats. It's such a great Western look.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing of he's better than this town. He came in from the big city.
Yeah. Chicago. He read a book. I do think that one thing that is really sort of cool about it, and again, we've talked about this, is that it just looks like a classic Western. And that I really focused on it this time. I think that really the surprise factor, a lot of comedy has to do with surprise. It's surprising that the movie is as goofy and silly as it is when it looks so much like a real Western.
Exactly. That's what threw me off. And that's why I ended up loving the movie, because it was just humorous and entertaining. And
I think we're driving some downloads. We're driving some downloads. I like that.
Oh, it's worth watching. Yes.
And one thing in the movie Red River with Walter Brennan, he's a much younger man, of course. He loses his teeth to a Native American, I believe in a card game or a dice game, and he calls them his eaten teeth. And that's why they have the gag where right before the gunfight, he hands his son his teeth.
Right. Yeah, both teeth.
And then eventually the teeth get shot, saving the son's life. And he says, you have to make it all about you. How am I going to eat now? And I did not know this going in, but a pretty fascinating fact is this is a United Artists movie under Cherokee Productions, whatever that is. But they wanted to just find work at this time for a lot of people that were working at United Artists.
Okay.
And they said, well, this Western, we can do this and it can have a huge cast and a lot of people can be employed. And everyone worked for scale except for James Garner. So it was an amazingly low budget film for the quality that you got. And I think it did extraordinary in the box office, and it's still, it's still well regarded. So,
when this came out, were Westerns a big thing?
They were really on the decline.
Okay.
What we were going to have coming up was more darker Westerns,
right.
stuff with more character driven, but the days of like John Ford and the Searchers and all that stuff, that was gone. All the tropes were in place to make fun of.
Because it reminds me of the Naked Gun, the Hot Shots movies, where you take a premises everyone knows and just add humor.
That's really a good call. And if that is the case, it's really one of the first trope for trope parody movies made. And the Western is, I believe it has been called the one pure American art form. We started making Westerns in Hollywood before anywhere else in the country, or the world, I should say.
Does the rest of the world have cowboys?
No, they don't
think so.
But, Italy made their share of Westerns in the 60s. They did, but we invented it here. So everyone who grew up through that time knew all those Western tropes.
Right,
and,
exactly.
I mean, and on TV, turn on the TV, and what do you have? You have Bonanza, you have Gunsmoke, you have The Rifleman.
Right,
it was
so
coming at you from
perfect.
The whole thing, it really just falls down to perfection. I think that's all I have to talk about. Except just to mention one more time, almost by accident, a perfect cast, because these were all the same people that would play these roles in low budget Westerns, and they just grabbed them for the work. So I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's neat.
I agree. And I've never seen any of these people before except for Joe Dansby.
Joe Danby, and he barely looks like himself.
Yeah, he's so young there that once I looked at who he was, I was like, oh yeah, now I recognize him.
So also a closing thought, as you know, our show is a service of the Mike O'Mara Show. I think this is the movie that has the most people that Mike does impressions of any other movie, because Mike does James Garner, he does Jack Elam, he does Harry Morgan, forgive me. He does, he could do Joe Danby, Paul Danby very easily, and he does Bruce Dern. That's 5 people right there.
But it's because they all, in this movie, they all lean into caricatures.
You're right. They definitely
then leans into impersonations.
I think they're all essentially playing themselves. And I don't know that Walter Brennan was an old, crusty man at this point, but he'd been playing one long enough. He, when he played with Bogart 30 years earlier, he was playing an old man. Walter Brennan was old his entire life, but so he knew what he was doing. So that said, now how many? Oh, do you have something more?
Real quick. There's a sequel to this, right?
No.
Is the sequel the Support Your Gunslinger isn't attached
Gunfighter.
to this?
Support Your Local Gunfighter was made on the coattails of this.
But it's
a lot of the
James
same
Garner
actors.
Also?
Yeah, a lot of the same actors, but a different
comedy?
plot. It is. It's not as funny. It's agreeable. I'll give it that.
It's not related?
Well, it depends. It's not in the same universe. You've got some of the same actors.
But not the same characters.
Not the same characters, no. The one thing I remember from Gunfighter...
They were nice and loose with IP back then, weren't
they? Go crazy. The one thing I remember from Gunfighter is that James Garner was addicted to roulette and he lost a lot. It's just not... It lacks the charm of the movie that we watched, and I think it's because Support Your Local Sheriff took so many of the tropes that there's really no way to recreate it. But Hollywood, if they have an idea, they're gonna try to do it twice. So
all right, well then I won't waste my time with that.
Don't watch this one again. It gets funnier the second time. That said, how many dented sheriff's badges out of 10 being the best, do you give Support Your Local Sheriff?
I give this an 8. I really enjoyed this. I will actually take a soul gummy at some point and watch this again.
I am so tickled. This pleases me no end.
I am shocked that I enjoyed this.
I have to go 9.5 for me because it is a movie that I've watched so many times and I'm still laughing when I watch it, and rewatchability speaks well. So I can't give it a 10 because I've not given a 10 yet, or have I? I don't know.
I think you've given like 4 10s.
Okay, well then
no,
this is a
I
10.
like your grades because they're always 9 and up.
No, well, I get to pick the movies. This is a podcast about Rob's movies.
That's true. Ghostbusters you didn't pick, so no 9, and the new Frankenstein, which we both didn't like.
Although, if we had watched Ghostbusters, you might have gotten a 9 out of me. It was Ghostbusters 2. Yeah,
because the first one's perfect.
All right. Hicks Nicks 26. I told you that we're going to do something different next week. So let's see what it is.
All right.
I hold in my hand the envelope, and as you know, folks, this is a real envelope, and Josh doesn't know what's in it.
No, I get nervous every time I see the envelope.
Envelope's my favorite.
What's happening this week? What's my plans?
Your plans are, hold on. I did a rotten job of opening the envelope. Oh, I ripped the sheet. Oh, Josh, this is hard.
Guess
Take
we're
all
not
this
watching
out.
a movie this week.
No. You have to work. You have to.
What is going on?
Okay, here we go. This is great. It's a double feature next week of 2 short subjects, one a 2-reeler and one a 3-reeler, I think.
Hold on.
Indicates 10 minutes.
What is 2-reel and 3-reel? What are you talking about?
A reel of film is 10 minutes when you shoot, or back then it was.
All right.
So a feature film could be any length. A 2-reeler was 20 minutes or shorter, and a 3-reeler was 30 minutes or shorter.
All right, so you're talking about 50 minutes here.
Yeah, right, if even that. And they both have a similar theme. And I'm curious because we've never discussed either, and I'll call them artists in these movies. One is The Music Box with Laurel and Hardy, and the second is An Ache in Every Steak with the Three Stooges. Now, do you have any initial takes on the Stooges or Laurel and Hardy? They are black and white, I'll tell you that. But you can see both of them in color if you want.
The first one you mentioned, I have no clue what that is. I've never
The
heard
Music
of it.
Box? Good.
Never heard of it.
Academy Award winning short, very funny. But go ahead.
I know the Three Stooges.
You're right.
I've never seen any of the original Stooges stuff. I've seen bits and pieces and the Poke Your Eye Out. And
sure.
I saw the modern movie they did, and I believe they did some like cartoon work with Scooby-Doo that I've seen.
Some cartoon work.
Yeah,
they did. I'm not sure I would call
How
it
else would
that.
you describe it?
Well, it's not like David Spade doing a voice in The Emperor's New Groove. It's just an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, they did a few episodes of Scooby-Doo.
All right, this is likely, they made about 200 short subjects for Columbia. This, with the possible exception of A Plumbing We Will Go, is probably the Stooges' best short, all told. And the plot, I'll show you the connection here. The plot is they're icemen on the hottest day of the summer, and someone buys ice that lives at the top of a hill. So they have to get the ice up the hill without it melting, and it becomes out of hand when they get hired as cooks for the party. A lot happens in 18 minutes. You're going to love it. The Music Box is Laurel and Hardy. They play piano delivery men, and they have to get a piano to a house up a very similar flight of steps. So these are both great comedians dealing with huge flights of steps and having to carry things up it. The one thing I will say to you folks, remember, this is The Music Box by Laurel and Hardy and An Ache in Every Steak, The Three Stooges. I think they're both available on YouTube.
I was going to say, do you check about this? Because when we go to movies in the 1930s, sometimes there's trouble to find a 100-year-old movie on the internet.
I know that the Stooges one is there, and I know that I've watched The Music Box on YouTube.
All right, so we just have to go to YouTube, not a purchaser.
Exactly. And also, Josh, for you, with the movie The Music Box, the short subject, I want you to pay attention to the sound design that they were using in the early 1930s, because it's pretty incredible. Both movies are well regarded. They're both slapstick. They're both different than Support Your Local Sheriff. And yes, they're in black and white. Love it. No comment from over there?
Well, you're going to get to see us in black and white next week.
Don't you love it? I think we look good.
All right.
I think you look better in black and white anyway, if that's all right for me saying. We both do.
Yeah. It balances
Folks,
out that skin tone.
Right now, Josh is really trying to think, I hope I can get this over with. Remember, you didn't think you'd like Sheriff, and you did.
Yeah. Color.
Yeah. And you know what? For the Stooges...
We just did black and white last week.
And we did color this week. We can alternate at least. I will tell you this. Even for me, a devoted Three Stooges fan, one Soul Gummy before a short really helps.
Oh, trust me. I already got that set aside.
All right. So, folks, join us next week as we watch An Ache in Every Steak and The Music Box right here on Hicks, Nicks, Sticks, Picks. Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome. Check out hicksnickstickspicks.com.
Oh, yeah. Do the thing.
Go rate,
do all the
review
things.
on iTunes, Spotify, and all that stuff. Help us out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't we want good reviews? 5-star reviews?
Yeah, 5-star reviews. Even better, go on social media and tell your friends.
Yeah, or even, God forbid, tell them in real life.
Yes.
It still works.
Occasionally it does.
Call them on your
now
candlestick phone.
They'll say, what's that thing called? Again, you'll have to tell them 4, 5, 6 times.
Exactly.
So maybe just grab their phone and subscribe for them.
You're going to have to tell them Hicks, Nicks, Sticks, Picks 6 times.
Yes.
Absolutely great. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much, everybody. And we will talk to you then.
Hicks, Nicks, Sticks, Picks. A podcast about Rob's movies with Rob Spewak and Josh Sroka.
Mike O'Mara, Radio Entertainment.